What if I told you the world is far larger than you've ever imagined, and the concept of outer space was created to trap your mind within an invisible prison? Millennia ago, the explorer Richard Constantine, a member of the ruling Primordium families from the lands beyond the ice wall, discovered the continents we now call Earth, the inner lands. These 7 land masses, encircled by a vast frozen barrier, were empty and untouched. But Richard didn't see them as new territories to explore. He saw them as the perfect containment zone, a place to populate, control, and dominate for generations. Richard devised the cosmic paradox, a psychological and geometric deception so vast it would rewrite the reality of anyone who lived inside the ice wall. The idea was simple: trap the minds of the inner land's inhabitants by convincing them that the ice wall was not a wall at all, but a land cap on the bottom of a sphere, and the sky above was everything. Using advanced knowledge of optical refraction and celestial engineering, Richard and the Primordium families fabricated the concept of a vast, infinite universe to distract people from looking outward toward the ice wall and the true lands beyond it. I'm going to go ahead and say this is a joke for entertainment purposes only.
The Earth is flat, and the attitude indicator that's attached to a gyroscope that maintains its rigidity in space proves it. So the attitude indicator is an instrument that's on airplanes that shows your artificial horizon, shows if the plane is pitched up or down or banked, the sky, the ground. So if the plane is pitched down, you would see it right here. It would look like it was pointing towards the ground. The first law of gyrodynamics is rigidity in space. And that's the principle that a spinning gyroscope maintains a fixed position in its plane of rotation, regardless of external forces or the movement of its base. So if the base of the gyroscope is a plane, you can see how the plane would change its orientation while flying around the sphere. But the plane changes its orientation, but the gyroscope that maintains its rigidity in space doesn't. So it doesn't matter if the Earth is curved or spinning or whatever, the gyroscope would always have the same orientation. So if a plane was flying over a spherical Earth, you would see it change on the attitude indicator and it would look like it was pointing towards the ground. But it doesn't do that. It doesn't do that because planes fly over a flat, stationary plane. Flight dynamics assume the Earth to be flat and stationary with zero curvature. There's also plenty of military documents, government documents from the US Army, from NASA, from the CIA that assume a flat, stationary Earth. And they assume that because it is. So the attitude indicator destroys the globe religion and proves that planes fly over a plane. So, rip globe. I'd like to ask everyone to join me and let's take a moment of silence for the globe. Rest in pieces. Oh, and this is for entertainment purposes only. My last video I made about this got removed after 1 view. So this is just completely satire. We all know we live on a spinning fairy tale cartoon space ball. Don't take anything I'm saying seriously. This is just TikTok.
They try to have bulletproof logic and make this simple and not look crazy because it can be easily taken that way. You know what I'm saying? This is a serious position and there's scientific and physical evidence of it. Literally mainstream media admits, well, Einstein admitted in relativity that a geocentric system is completely kinematically equal to a heliocentric system. They're both completely viable based on observational data. Actually, it only suggests that we are at the center of the universe based on observations of the sky, their movements, and the cosmic microwave background. So like this is the, like, if you understand like the mainstream talking points, like they're starting to say gravity doesn't even exist because it's not working on the quantum scale for so long. Like they're starting to say dark matter doesn't exist, which was how we reconciled relativity being off by 95% of galaxy cluster rotations. It's a joke. Once you actually physically stick your head in these books and realize the claims and try to verify the claims that are being made, you'll understand that modern astronomy is metaphysics. It's not science anymore. Anything else?
Yeah, just another question that pops up. not necessarily just about flat Earth, but why do you think that they block you from going to the poles?
Because you would discover something that they're not claiming to be there. I think the North Pole is not just water. That's what they're claiming is there. It's just water. I would never say, obviously I don't know it's there, right? I explained to you earlier that we'd have to go there to say what's there. So I wouldn't say definitively what's there, but I think it's quite interesting that our ancestors were drawing maps like this as the North Pole with a magnetic mountain at the center. Obviously, I don't know if this is there. I would never tell you, you know what, man, this is for sure there. Let's go up there. Let's find it. I don't know it's there, but it's definitely interesting. We have multiple maps being generated by our ancestors from different cultures that, they didn't have cell phones to talk to each other and stuff like that, where we have this as the center of the earth. And now they say it's
They say satellites are going around the Earth. They use Newtonian mechanics, and they use an Earth-centered, Earth-fixed coordinate system. So what they do in their physics and equations, they account for real inertial forces, Euler forces, and then they account for centrifugal forces and the Coriolis force. The Coriolis force is twice the magnitude. So it seems the Coriolis acceleration not only cancels the centrifugal acceleration, but together they provide a net centripetal radially inward component of acceleration that is directed toward the center of rotation. If you have a stationary Earth with the cosmos moving around it, you would just get angular momentum that was basically pushing you in towards the center of rotation and would just keep you going perpetually. That's what it would do. The satellites actually use the equations and physics of that system. So basically what's going on is, if this is real and we grant the satellites, they're putting a satellite up as if the Earth is stationary and the universe is spinning around it, generating forces. And the net force actually would keep it moving perpetually around the Earth. And they account for a change in velocity. They account for a curved path. You have a problem. Einstein says, you're not in a curved path. You don't have a change in velocity. There are many other problems, but I wanted to focus on the meta of the actual orbital mechanics itself. It's very ironic. And then I'll close it off with this quote. Again, once more for the record, it has been shown at least 6 different ways this century alone that the equations and physics used by NASA to launch satellites are identical to the equations derived from a geocentric universe. Thus, if the space program is proof of anything, and that's a big if the space program is proof of anything, it proves geocentricity and disproves heliocentrism. The evidence for heliocentrism is even weaker than the evidence for evolution. PhD astronomer Gerardus Bow. What he's saying is, again, the physics and equations used to launch satellites assume a geocentric universe where the Earth is stationary and fixed in the center of that universe, hence geocentric, and the universe moves around the Earth, generating forces that keep the satellites moving around the Earth. So if you assumed all of that, put it up there successfully, well, that would be positive physical evidence for that actual assumption that you utilize for practical use. That assumption doesn't even work within heliocentrism, which means if those satellites are up there, it is proof that the Earth is not moving. We're going to get much more into it. All of the parts of GPS that show that relativity cannot be true. And of course, without relativity, we've covered a million different ways. If you don't have relativity, you don't have heliocentrism.
A lot of people have been asking me lately how the seasons work on a flat Earth, so I'm going to show you. But first, I'm going to show you how they don't work on the globe religion. So according to the heliocentric model, they say the sun is 109 times the diameter of the Earth, and you could fit 1.3 million Earths inside the sun. They say we get our seasons due to the Earth's 23.4 degree tilt that they can't prove. There's a thing called the inverse square law of light, and it basically says how light spreads out over distance and loses its intensity over a distance. So here's the UV index of the Earth, and we see how the UV is strongest along the equator and between the tropics. So according to the inverse square law of light and the size they give us of the sun compared to the Earth, how will we get the UV index greatest along the equator? I'd like for someone to demonstrate that for me in reality, because it doesn't work. It's almost like the sun shooting a laser beam on our little tiny Earth. They also say the sun is 3.4% closer in the winter. So the sun is closer, but we have winter. So we have winter and the sun is 3.4% closer, but the closest point to the sun would be the equator, the furthest would be the poles, and the difference in distance is 0.00004%. And to take it a step further, I go back and forth from New Jersey to Florida a lot, and it could be really hot here and freezing here. And the difference between there is 0.00008%. Literally negligible. So the only way the seasons work in reality is on a flat Earth with a smaller, more local sun that moves between the Tropic of Cancer for the summer solstice to the Tropic of Capricorn 6 months later for the winter solstice. And that's why we have the greatest UV index along the equator and between the tropics, because the sun is a smaller, more local light that goes around us like a clock. So when the sun springs up past the equator for the spring equinox, it's spring, and when the sun falls down past the equator, it's fall. So either the sun is shooting a laser at the little teeny tiny Earth that's tilted, wobbling, spinning, orbiting, doing all these tricks in fake space, or the sun is a much smaller, more local light, the Earth is stationary, and the sun and all the other luminaries in the sky were put there for us, and they go around us like a clock. The heliocentric model is sun worship. Helios was a Greek sun god. Not everything revolves around the sun. The Earth is the center of everything. We're special, and the luminaries in the sky were put there for us, for signs, seasons, days, and years. We live in a perfect clock and calendar. The globe is unalived. RIP globe. I'd like to ask everyone to join me, and let's take a moment of silence for the globe. Rest in pieces. Oh, and this was just for entertainment purposes only. We all know we live on a spinning, wobbling, tilted, orbiting space ball, flying through infinite, ever-expanding vacuum of space. This is only TikTok. Don't take anything I say serious.